Chapter 6. Mr. Toad. On a bright sunny morning early in the summer, Mole and Rat had been busy with the boat. They had been painting and varnishing and mending the paddles, and they were just finishing their breakfast in the parlour when there was a heavy knock on the door. "Bother," said Rat. "See who it is, Mole, will you?" It was Mr. Badger. He strode into the room looking very, very serious. "Toad's hour has come," he said solemnly. "This very morning another new and very powerful motor car will arrive at Toad Hall. You two must come with me at once and stop him doing any further harm." "Right you are," cried Rat, starting up. "We'll rescue Toad. We'll convert him." The three of them set off up the road, and when they reached the carriage driving off Toad Hall, they found a shiny new bright red motor car standing in front of the house. And just as they arrived, Toad came out dressed in goggles, cap and an enormous overcoat. "Hello, you fellows," he began cheerfully. "You're just in time to come for a jolly—" But Rat and Mole grabbed him. Mr. Badger strode up the steps to the front door. "Take him inside," he said sternly. Then he turned to the chauffeur in charge of the new car. "I'm afraid you won't be wanted today," he said. "Mr. Toad has changed his mind." And he followed the others inside. The chauffeur is somebody who drives a car for you. "Now then," said Mr. Badger to Mole and Rat, "take those silly driving clothes off him." Toad was kicking and struggling, so Rat sat on him while Mole got the motoring clothes off him bit by bit. "You've taken no notice of our warning," said Mr. Badger. "You're getting us all a bad name by your furious driving." "I'll make one more effort to bring you to reason," went on Mr. Badger. "You come with me into the other room." 3/4 of an hour later, Mr. Badger reappeared with a limp and tearful Toad. "He's very sorry, and he's going to give up motor cars forever." Look, Toad got told off for not being good. Mr. Badger asked Toad to repeat in front of his friends what had just happened. They all looked at him. "No," he said, "I'm sorry. In fact, the first motor car I see, poop, poop, off I go in it." "What?" cried Mr. Badger. "Take him upstairs, you two, and lock him in his bedroom." "It's going to be a long business," said Mr. Badger, sighing. "I've never seen Toad so determined." And true enough, while he was locked in his room, Toad would arrange the bedroom chairs to look like a motor car. Where is he? There he is. Then he would pretend that he was in the driving seat and drive along until he had an accident. One day, when Mole and Mr. Badger had gone out for a ramble in the woods, Rat went upstairs to see Toad and found him still in bed. "Ratty," he said, "would you go to the village quickly and fetch a doctor? Even now it may be too late." "Oh no, Toad's ill." Rat hurried from the room, being very careful, however, to lock the door behind him. "It's best to be on the safe side," he said to himself. "I'd better humour him and go," he thought. "If there's nothing really the matter, the doctor will tell him." So he ran off to the village on his errand of mercy. Little did he know that Toad had hopped out of bed as soon as he heard the key turn in the lock. He's not really ill. Toad got dressed quickly in his best suit and filled his pockets with money. Then he took the sheets off his bed. He tied them together and fastened one end to the centre mullion of his window. He scrambled out of the window, held on to the sheets very tightly, and slid gently to the ground below. Taking the opposite direction to Rat, Toad scampered off happily, whistling a merry tune. Poor Rat felt a terrible fool when Mr. Badger and Mole came back, and he had to tell them that Toad had escaped. "You've been taken in, Ratty," said Mole. "Toad too, of all animals." "He did it awfully well," said Rat. Meanwhile, Toad, gay and irresponsible, walked briskly along. "Smart piece of work, that," he said to himself, chuckling. And when he reached a little town, he went into the hotel and ordered a slap-up lunch for himself to celebrate his escape. There we go. He was halfway through his meal when he heard a poop-poop and a motor car stopping outside. The occupants came inside, and Toad could contain himself no longer. Out in the yard he went to have a look. "I wonder if this sort of car starts easily," he murmured. Oh no, Toad was told not to get a car, and I think he might just do it. Of course, Toad could not resist the temptation. He got in, started the engine, and drove off, and it's not his car. felt that he was Toad once more, Toad at his best, Toad the terror, the traffic queller. The miles were eaten up under him as he went. He knew not where to, reckless of what might come to him. "Let me see," said the magistrate. "He is guilty of stealing a motor car, of driving dangerously, and of cheeking the police. What's the stiffest penalty we can give him?" 20 years, said the clerk. "Excellent," said the magistrate. "Oh no, Toad stole a car, then was rude, and now he's had to go to prison. Uh-oh." So poor Toad was taken off to prison, loaded with chains. They had to drag him from the courthouse, shrieking and protesting, past the crowds in the marketplace, and across the drawbridge of the grim old castle. There's the castle work. They took the unhappy Toad past sentries and guard-rooms full of grinning soldiers. They led him right to the door of the grimmest dungeon that lay in the heart of the innermost keep in the castle. The rusty key creaked in the lock, the great door clanged behind him, and Toad was a helpless prisoner. Oh my goodness me, we know better than to take things that aren't ours. No wonder he got in trouble. Oh dear me. Next time it is Chapter 7, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Goodbye, my darlings.